For 10 years, a sword lay hidden beneath the floor of a small hut. In a village that did not appear on any map, no one spoke of it. No one asked why a blind man lived alone at the edge of the cedar grove. And no one questioned why he flinched whenever metal rang sharply. The man himself never touched the blade. He rose before dawn, worked with his hands, listened more than he spoke, and lived as if some part of him had been carefully buried alongside the steel. Those who passed through the mountains believed they were seeing a harmless figure, a blind Ronin who had chosen silence over the world he once knew. They were wrong, but not in the way they imagined, because the sword was not hidden out of fear, and it was not buried out of weakness. It was buried because the last time he had drawn it, something irreversible had happened. For 10 years, that choice was held, until a single threat reached the village and forced the blind Ronin to confront a question he had avoided every day since. What does a man owe the world after he has sworn never to become himself again? Before we continue, one question. Do stories like this still matter to you? If they do, subscribe and walk with us through the old paths of Japan. Let's continue. The village of Yamanaka existed in the space between places, too small for tax collectors to bother with, too remote for merchants to include in their routes. 43 families lived there, farming rice in terraced paddies that clung to the mountainside like desperate fingers. They were born there, grew old there, died there, and were buried in the small cemetery overlooking the valley below. Outsiders came rarely. When they did, they were treated with the cautious hospitality of people who had learned that strangers usually meant trouble. Ogawa Kenshi had arrived 11 years ago, walking up the mountain path with nothing but a bundle on his back and a walking stick in his hand. The villagers had watched him approach with suspicion. A blind man, traveling alone, was unusual enough. A blind man whose movements carried the unmistakable economy of a trained warrior was something else entirely. But he had asked only for shelter, had paid for his food with labor, repairing tools and weaving baskets with hands that were surprisingly deft. Despite his sightless eyes, he spoke little, caused no trouble, and gradually, the suspicion faded into acceptance. Now, a decade later, he was simply Kenshi, the blind man who lived in the hut by the cedar grove, the one who could fix anything and asked for nothing in return. Only old Yuki knew who he really was, and she had kept that secret for reasons she never fully explained, even to herself. Kenshi woke, as he always did, to the sound of birds. First the mountain sparrows, their calls sharp and quick in the pre-dawn darkness. Then the crows, deeper, more deliberate, announcing the coming light. Finally the wood pigeons, soft and mournful, marking the moment when night fully surrendered to day. He did not need eyes to know the time. The world told him everything, if he listened. He rose from his futon, muscles stiff from sleep, and moved through the small hut with practiced ease. 3 steps to the water basin, 2 steps to the cooking area, 4 steps to the door. He had memorized every surface, every obstacle, every deviation in the wooden floor. The morning air was cool against his face as he stepped outside. Late autumn. He could smell the decay of fallen leaves, the sharpness of approaching frost. In a few weeks, snow would come to the mountains, sealing the village in white silence until spring. He drew water from the well, washed his face, prepared a simple breakfast of rice and pickled vegetables. The routine was the same every day. He had learned to find comfort in repetition, in the absence of decisions that might lead somewhere dangerous. After eating, he walked to the village center, his stick tapping the familiar path. The sounds greeted him like old friends, the rhythmic thump of rice being pounded, the chatter of women at the communal well, the laughter of children playing before their morning chores. One laugh in particular made him stop, high and bright, like water over stones. He would recognize it anywhere. Hannah. She is 10 years old now. He knew this because he had counted every year since the night he found her. He could not see her face, had never seen it, but he had built an image of her from sounds and textures, and the descriptions others occasionally offered. Small for her age, they said. Dark hair that refused to stay in its braids. A smile that came easily and often. He knew the weight of her hand when she tugged at his sleeve. The particular rhythm of her footsteps, lighter than anyone else in the village. The way her breathing quickened when she was excited, slowed when she was thinking. He knew her better than he had ever known anyone, and she knew almost nothing about him. Kenshi-san. Her voice preceded her footsteps by half a second. Then she was there, small fingers wrapping around his hand. Good morning, Hana. I caught a frog yesterday. A big one. Grandmother made me let it go, but I named it first. I called it Kenshi because it was grumpy and sat very still. He felt the corner of his mouth twitch. I am honored to share a name with a frog. You should be. He was a very distinguished frog. She led him to the bench by the shrine where he often sat in the mornings. He could feel the warmth of the sun on his face now, the angle telling him it was perhaps 2 hours after dawn. Hana sat beside him, close enough that her shoulder brushed his arm. She did this often. The casual contact of a child who did not understand loneliness, but somehow sensed it in others. Kenshi-san, why do you never come inside our house? Grandmother says you are always welcome, but you only sit in the garden. The question was innocent. The answer was not. I prefer the open air. Walls make me feel trapped. Because you cannot see them? Perhaps. She was quiet for a moment, processing this with the earnest concentration of the young. I think I would be scared if I could not see. How do you know what things look like? I listen, I touch, I smell. He turned his face toward her, though his eyes saw nothing. Right now, I know you are wearing the blue kimono with the small tear at the hem that Yuki-san keeps meaning to mend. I know you had rice with fish for breakfast because I can smell it on your breath. I know you ran here from your house because your heart is still beating fast. Hana laughed with delight. That is like magic. It is only attention. Most people see so much that they forget to notice. When you cannot see, you learn to notice everything else. Can you teach me? Close your eyes. He heard her eyelids flutter shut, her breathing change as she concentrated. Now tell me, without looking, what do you hear? Birds, the wind. Someone is chopping wood. Good. What else? Water. From the stream behind the shrine. Good. Now, what do you smell? Smoke from the cooking fires and something sweet. Like flowers. The chrysanthemums by the path. They are late blooming this year. He placed his hand gently on her head. You see? The world is still there, even with your eyes closed. You just have to listen differently. She opened her eyes. He could tell by the small change in her breathing. Kenshi-san, yes? Why are you sad? The question struck him like a blade. Children, he had learned, could see things that adults trained themselves to ignore. What makes you think I am sad? Your voice. It sounds like grandmother's voice when she talks about grandfather. Like there is something heavy inside that she cannot put down. He had no answer for that. No lie comfortable enough to offer a child. Some sadness, he said finally, cannot be put down. It can only be carried. That sounds tiring. It is. Hana was quiet again. Then her small hand found his and squeezed. I can help you carry it sometimes. If you want. The weight in his chest shifted. Not lighter, but somehow more bearable. Thank you, Hana. That is very kind. That night, alone in his hut, Kenshi sat in darkness that was no different from daylight to his sightless eyes. The sword was beneath his floorboards. He could feel its presence the way some men feel approaching storms. A pressure, a weight, a reminder of everything he had been and everything he had tried to leave behind. He did not touch it, had not touched it in 10 years, but he could not forget it was there. The memory came, as it always did in quiet moments. The night in Kurokawa, the contract on Lord Ishida's life, the intelligence that said he would be alone in his chambers, guarded only by 2 men. The intelligence was wrong. Kenshi had slipped through the estate like smoke, his blindness no obstacle in the darkness that other men feared. He heard the guards before they heard him. 2 soft sounds, 2 bodies falling. Then the door to the inner chamber. 3 heartbeats inside, not 1. He should have stopped, should have withdrawn, reassessed, waited for better information. But he had been arrogant then, confident in his skills, certain that whatever awaited him, he could handle it. Lord Ishida had drawn his sword when Kenshi entered. The duel was brief. Ishida was a capable warrior, but Kenshi had killed capable warriors before. The lord fell with a single cut. Then the screaming began. A woman's voice, high with terror, and beneath it, something worse. A child's cry. cut short by the blade that was already moving before Kenshi understood what he was hearing. His sword had found her by sound alone. The woman trying to protect her son. And when the woman fell, the boy behind her was exposed. The second cut was reflex, instinct honed by years of training. He did not even realize what he had done until the silence came. 3 bodies. He counted them by touch in the darkness, his hands wet with blood. Lord Ishida, a woman in silk robes, and a child no older than the one whose laugh now brightened his mornings. Kenshi had walked out of the estate and kept walking, past the men who had hired him, past the cities he had known, past everything that connected him to the killer he had been. He walked until his legs gave out, and when he woke, he was in the mountains, and a new life had begun. But the memory never faded. The weight of those 3 bodies pressed against his soul every moment of every day. Hannah did not know it, but she was his penance, his one attempt to balance the scales that could never be balanced. He could not bring back the child he had killed, but he could protect this one, could ensure that she grew up safe, loved, untouched by the violence that had defined his existence. It was not enough. It would never be enough, but it was all he had. 3 days later, the strangers came. Kenshi heard them before anyone else. The sound of horses on the mountain path, moving with the disciplined rhythm of trained riders. 5 of them, by his count, armed from the weight of their steps when they dismounted. He was in the village center, helping repair a broken cart wheel when they arrived. The normal sounds of the village faded as the strangers approached. People did not stop working, but their movements became quieter, more watchful. We seek the one called Ogawa Kenshi. The voice was cultured, used to command. A samurai, not a common soldier. Kenshi did not move, did not acknowledge the words. Perhaps they would believe the villagers' confusion and leave. We know he is here. Our Lord has been searching for a long time. A hand touched his shoulder, gentle, but firm enough to communicate urgency. Old Yuki's voice, barely above a whisper. They will not leave without speaking to you. Better to face them than have them search. She was right. If they searched, they might find Hannah, might start asking questions about the blind man's connection to the child. Kenshi rose slowly, keeping his face toward the sound of the speaker's voice. I am Kenshi. Silence. He could feel them studying him. The ragged clothes, the sightless eyes, the walking stick in his hand. Not what they expected, perhaps. You are the blind demon? Ogawa Kenshi, who killed 37 men in single combat and never lost a duel. That man died a long time ago. Our Lord does not believe that. He believes such skills do not simply disappear. Your Lord is welcome to his beliefs. I am a basket weaver now. Nothing more. One of the others moved. A small sound, leather shifting against leather. A hand going to his sword hilt. Kenshi tracked the movement without turning his head. You will come with us, the first voice said. Lord Takeda Goro wishes to speak with you. I will not. That was not a request. Kenshi turned to face the speaker directly. His eyes saw nothing, but he had learned long ago that the blind stare unnerved people. They could not tell where his attention was focused, could not read his intentions in his gaze. I know your Lord's reputation. I know what he wants, and I will tell you what I told the last men who came seeking the blind demon. That man is dead. I cannot train warriors because I no longer am one. I cannot teach killing because I have forgotten how. Go back to your Lord and tell him his journey was wasted. Lord Goro anticipated this response. Something in the man's tone changed. A shift from demand to something else. Something worse. He asked me to deliver a message. He said you would understand. A pause. The sound of paper being unfolded. There is a child in this village. A girl named Hannah, raised by the widow Yuki. Lord Goro knows about her. He knows what she means to you. The world went very still. If you do not come with us willingly, the girl will be taken to the southern provinces. Lord Goro has associates there who pay well for children of her age. I am told the work is unpleasant. I am told few survive past their 20th year. Kenshi's hands, resting on his walking stick, did not move. But somewhere inside him, something that had been sleeping for 10 years opened its eyes. You threaten a child. Lord Goro makes an offer. Your cooperation for her safety. It seems like a reasonable exchange. The village had gone completely silent. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. How long? You have 3 days to decide. We will return at dawn on the 4th day. If you agree to come with us, the girl remains untouched. If you refuse, the man let the silence complete his sentence. Footsteps, the strangers remounting their horses, the disciplined rhythm fading down the mountain path. When the sound had disappeared entirely, Kenshi still had not moved. Yuki found him that evening in the cedar grove behind his hut. He was sitting on a fallen log, his face turned toward the setting sun he could not see. His hands, usually busy with some task, rested empty on his knees. "You heard," he said as she approached. Everyone heard. She settled beside him, her old joints protesting the movement. "The village is afraid. They do not understand why a warlord would come here, to this place that has nothing worth taking. He came for me. Yes, I know." She was quiet for a moment. "I have known who you were since the first year." A traveling monk passed through and spoke of the blind demon who had disappeared. "He described you precisely. The way you moved, the scars on your hands, the way you turn your head to listen. You never said anything. What was there to say? The man he described had killed dozens. The man I saw repaired tools and made children laugh. People can change. I have lived long enough to know that." Kenshi bowed his head. "The man he described also killed a child, a boy no older than Hannah." "I know." The monk told that story too. How the blind demon vanished after the Kurokawa massacre. Some said he died. Others said he went mad with grief. Both, perhaps. Yuki reached out and placed her weathered hand over his. "What will you do?" "I do not know. If you go with them, you become what you were again. Everything you built here, everything you tried to become, ends, yes. And if you refuse?" Kenshi's hands tightened on his knees. "Then Hannah pays for my principles. A child suffers because I wanted to believe I could be something other than a killer. That is not a choice. That is torture. It is what I deserve. I took a child's life. Now I must choose between taking more lives or watching one be destroyed." Yuki was silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was harder. "Hannah is not your penance, Kenshi. She is not a way to balance scales or pay debts. She is a child who loves you, though she does not understand why. If you let her be taken, because you are too attached to your guilt to fight for her, then you have learned nothing in these 10 years. Fighting means killing, yes. I swore I would never kill again." "Then perhaps," Yuki said quietly, "you swore the wrong oath." He did not sleep that night. He sat in his hut, listening to the sounds of the village settling into rest. The last conversations are fading, the cooking fires dying to embers, the night insects beginning their chorus, and beneath the floorboards, the sword waited. He had wrapped it in oiled cloth 10 years ago, placed it in a box lined with cedar to keep away moisture and insects, and sealed it beneath the floor of his hut. A burial of sorts, the final resting place of the man he had been. Now, in the darkness that was always his companion, he faced the truth he had been avoiding. He could not let them take Hannah. The reasons did not matter, whether she was his penance, his redemption, or simply a child he had grown to love. Whether saving her would damn him or save him or make no difference at all. The calculations were irrelevant. He could not let them take her, and that meant there was only one choice. Slowly, he moved to the corner of the hut and knelt. His fingers found the loose board, pried it up, and reached into the darkness below. The box was still there, the wood cool and smooth under his hands. He lifted it out and set it on the floor before him. For a long moment, he simply sat there, feeling its weight, its presence. Then he opened it. The smell of the oil hit him first. Then his fingers found the cloth, unwrapped it carefully, and touched steel for the first time in 10 years. The blade sang as he drew it from the scabbard, a high, clear note that seemed to hang in the air. He had forgotten how beautiful that sound was, how terrible. He held the sword before him, feeling its weight, its balance. His hands remembered what his mind had tried to forget. The grip, the angle, the thousand small adjustments that made the difference between a killing stroke and a wasted motion. The blind demon was not dead. He had only been sleeping. The next 2 days, Kenshi prepared. Not his body. 10 years of simple labor had kept him strong, and the muscle memory of combat never truly fades. A warrior's instincts live in the spine, in the tendons. in the spaces between thought and action, where training becomes reflex. He prepared his mind. Each morning, he walked to the clearing behind the cedar grove and moved through forms he had not practiced in a decade. The sword felt strange at first, like a language half forgotten. But by the second day, the old rhythms returned. The precise angles of attack and defense, the way his body could sense space and distance without sight to guide it. He listened differently now, not for the peaceful sounds of village life, but for threat. The particular quality of footsteps that indicated armed men, the subtle displacement of air that preceded a blade's arc, the change in breathing that marked the moment before violence. The blind demon had been feared for good reason. Without sight, he had developed senses that bordered on the supernatural. He could fight in absolute darkness, where other men stumbled blind. He could hear a sword being drawn from 20 paces. He could feel the intention to attack before the attacker's muscles began to move. These abilities had not disappeared. They had merely been sleeping, like the sword beneath his floor. On the second evening, Yuki came to him. They are camped at the base of the mountain. 5 men, as before. They have sent no scouts, posted no additional guards. They do not expect resistance. They expect a blind basket weaver to surrender quietly. Yes. Kenshi nodded slowly. Arrogance was useful. Arrogance created openings. Hana, she knows something is wrong. Children sense these things, but she does not know the details. I told her that some bad men came to the village and that she must stay inside until they leave. Did she ask about me? Yuki was quiet for a moment. She asked if you were safe. I told her you were. The lie hung between them. Kenshi accepted it without comment. Some lies were necessary. When I am gone, he said, tell her that I went on a journey. Tell her I will try to return, but that if I do not, she should remember the things I taught her. To listen, to notice, to find the world that exists beyond what eyes can see. You speak as if you expect to die. 5 trained warriors against a blind man who has not fought in 10 years. The odds are not favorable. Then why fight at all? Take Hana and flee. Disappear into the mountains as you disappeared before. Kenshi shook his head. Goro will not stop. If I flee, he will hunt me, not hunt her. We would spend our lives running, and eventually, he would catch us. This ends only one way. With blood, yes, with blood. Yuki reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were rough from years of work, gentle in their intention. I have watched you for 10 years, Kenshi. Watched you try to become something other than what you were. You wanted so badly to believe that the killer was gone, that only the man remained. I was fooling myself. Perhaps, or perhaps both are true. Perhaps the killer and the man can exist in the same body, and what matters is which one you choose to be. I choose to protect Hana, whatever that requires. Then protect her, but do not lose yourself in the process. Do not become the demon again, not fully, or you will not be able to find your way back. That night, Kenshi visited Hana for what he believed might be the last time. She was in Yuki's house, confined to the inner room as instructed. He could hear her restlessness through the paper walls, the shuffle of her feet as she paced, the small sighs of a child forced to wait without understanding why. He sat in the garden, and after a moment, the shoji screen slid open. Kenshi-san, I did not mean to wake you. I was not sleeping. She padded across the wooden walkway and settled beside him. Grandmother said I have to stay inside. She said there are bad men near the village. She is right. You should stay inside. But you are outside. I am old. Old men do foolish things. Hana was quiet for a moment. Then her small hand found his in the darkness. You are going to fight them. The bad men. The directness of children. They saw through the comfortable lies adults told each other. What makes you say that? Because you are different. The last 2 days, you move differently. Like a cat before it hunts. He had underestimated her. Children notice things. He had taught her that himself. If I were going to fight them, he said carefully, would you be afraid? For you, yes. For yourself? She considered this with the seriousness she brought to all questions. Grandmother says you are stronger than you look. She says you were a warrior once, before you came here. She says some men never forget how to fight, even when they stop wanting to. Yuki had told her. Perhaps recently, perhaps long ago. Either way, the secret was no longer a secret. I was a warrior. A long time ago. Why did you stop? The question that had no good answer. He could not tell her about Kurokawa. Could not describe the weight of innocent blood on his hands. She was too young for that truth. Perhaps anyone was. Because I hurt someone I should not have hurt. And I did not want to hurt anyone ever again. But you will hurt the bad men? To protect the village? If I must. That is different then. Hurting bad people to protect good people. That is what warriors are supposed to do, right? Such simple logic. Such clear morality. The world as seen by a child, where good and bad were easily distinguished, and the right choice was always obvious. He wished he could see things so clearly. Hannah, I need you to promise me something. Whatever happens tomorrow, you must stay inside. No matter what you hear, no matter how frightened you are, stay with Yuki and do not come out until she tells you it is safe. But what if you need help? I will not need help. But what if you get hurt? Then Yuki will take care of me. But I will not get hurt if I know you are safe. Understanding. Your safety makes me stronger. Your danger makes me weak. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she moved closer and pressed her face against his arm. Come back, she whispered. Promise you will come back. He could not promise. Would not lie to her about something so important. I will try, he said. That is all I can offer. Then try very hard. I will. I promise that much. They sat together in the darkness, the old warrior and the child he had saved, listening to the night sounds of a village that did not know what dawn would bring. If this story has gripped you, leave a like. It tells the algorithm that tales of sacrifice and redemption deserve to be told. And if you want to walk with us through more echoes of old Japan, subscribe and join our community. The strangers came as promised, riding up the mountain path as the first light touched the peaks. Kenshi was waiting for them at the village entrance. He stood alone in the center of the path, his sword at his side, his walking stick nowhere to be seen. The morning mist curled around his feet, softening the edges of the world. To anyone watching from the village, he might have been a ghost, a figure from old stories, stepped out of legend into the mundane world. The horses stopped 20 paces away. You have made your decision. The same voice as before. The cultured samurai who spoke for his lord. I have. Then you will come with us willingly? Lord Goro will be pleased. He has waited a long time to meet the blind demon. Kenshi did not move. I will not come with you. And you will leave this village today, without the girl, without me, and you will tell Lord Goro that his search is over. There is nothing for him here. Silence. Then laughter, cold and sharp. You threaten us? A blind man against 5 warriors? This is not courage. This is madness. Perhaps. Kenshi heard them dismounting. 5 sets of boots hitting the ground. 5 swords being loosened in their scabbards. They were spreading out, flanking him, taking positions that would prevent escape. They still did not understand. Last chance, the leader said. Come willingly, and the girl remains safe. Force us to take you, and we will burn this village to the ground and sell every child we find. You'll try. The leader's patience ended. Kenshi heard the sword clear the scabbard, heard the footsteps accelerating, and heard the subtle shift in breathing that preceded the attack. He moved. 10 years of rust burned away in an instant. His blade came up in a rising arc that intercepted the leader's strike before it could descend. Steel rang against steel. The force of the impact traveled up his arms, familiar and terrible. He did not stop to savor the sensation. His body was already turning, already repositioning, reading the space around him through sound and vibration. The second attacker came from his left. Kenshi heard the whisper of fabric, the displacement of air, the grunt of effort. He sidestepped, let the blade pass within inches of his chest, and countered with a horizontal slash that opened the man's throat. The body fell, one down. The third and fourth attacked together, coordinating their strikes to overwhelm him. It was a good tactic against a sighted opponent. Against Kenshi, it was suicide. He could hear both blades simultaneously, could track their trajectories through the air with perfect precision. He ducked under the high strike, deflected the low one, and drove his sword through the nearest man's chest before pivoting to face the other. This one hesitated, just for a moment, just long enough. Kenshi's blade took his hand off at the wrist. The man screamed and stumbled backward, clutching the stump. Kenshi finished him with a thrust to the heart. Mercy, of a kind. 3 down. 2 remaining. The leader had recovered from his initial surprise. Kenshi could hear him circling, footsteps careful, breathing controlled. A professional. Someone who had trained for moments like this. The 5th man was behind him, trying to position for a strike at his back. Kenshi waited. The attack came from both directions at once. The leader from the front, the 5th man from behind. A killing trap with no escape. Except Kenshi did not try to escape. He dropped to one knee, letting both blades pass over his head, and swept his sword in a low arc that caught the 5th man across the ankles. The man fell howling, his tendons severed. He would live if he received treatment. He would never walk properly again. Kenshi rose to face the leader alone. "What are you?" The man's voice had lost its cultured calm. Fear had crept in, raw and honest. "You cannot see. You cannot possibly see. I do not need to see. This is not possible. No man can fight like this without eyes. I am not fighting without eyes. I am fighting with everything else. You rely on sight so heavily that you have forgotten all your other senses. I have had 17 years to remember them." The leader attacked. A fierce combination of strikes, desperate, seeking any opening. Kenshi parried each one, reading the pattern, waiting for the inevitable mistake. It came on the 6th strike. The leader overextended, his balance shifting forward, his guard dropping for a fraction of a second. Kenshi's blade found his heart. The man's sword fell from nerveless fingers. He stood for a moment, swaying, eyes wide with disbelief. Then he crumpled to the ground and was still. 5 men. Perhaps 30 seconds. The blind demon had returned. Kenshi stood among the bodies as the mist slowly lifted. His hands were steady. His breathing was calm. The familiar detachment of combat had settled over him. The cold clarity that separated thought from action. He had not wanted this. Had spent 10 years trying to be something other than this. But standing here, surrounded by the dead, he could not deny what he was. The skills that had made him a legend had not faded. The instincts that had kept him alive through countless battles remained sharp. He was still a killer. Would always be a killer. The question was what he did with that truth. "Kenshi," Yuki's voice, from the edge of the village. He turned toward her. "It is over. It is over." He heard her footsteps approaching, careful, avoiding the bodies. When she reached him, she stopped and was silent for a long moment. "You are not injured, no. They are all dead. For dead. One wounded. He will not fight again." Another silence. Then, quietly, "What will you do with him?" Kenshi had been considering this. The wounded man could not be allowed to return to Goro. He would report what had happened, and Goro would send more men. 10 next time, 20. However many it took. But killing an unarmed, helpless man was different from killing armed attackers. It crossed a line that Kenshi was not certain he wanted to cross. "Bring him water," he said finally. "Clean his wounds. Then we will talk." The man's name was Tanaka, a minor samurai from a minor family, fallen on hard times, selling his sword to whoever would pay. He sat against a tree at the edge of the village, his ruined ankles wrapped in bandages, his face pale with pain and blood loss. Kenshi sat across from him, close enough to strike if necessary, far enough to give the appearance of conversation rather than interrogation. "You will return to your lord," Kenshi said. "You will tell him what happened here. If I tell him, he will kill me for failing. Perhaps, or perhaps he will be grateful for the intelligence. 5 men dead, 1 survivor with information. That has value." Tanaka laughed bitterly. "You do not know Lord Goro. He does not forgive failure. He does not value intelligence over success. He values only results. Then do not return to him. Find another lord to serve. Disappear into the provinces and start a new life. I cannot walk. Thanks to you. You cannot walk quickly, but you can walk, with time and care. The tendons will heal, partially. You will limp, but you will live." Tanaka was silent for a long moment. "Why did you spare me? You killed the others without hesitation. You hesitated. When the moment came, you hesitated. That tells me you are not entirely lost. I would have killed you if I could. Perhaps, but you did not, and so you live." Kenshi rose slowly. "Leave this village. Do not return. Do not speak of the girl to anyone. If I hear that Lord Goro knows of her existence, I will assume you told him, and I will find you. You cannot find someone you cannot see. I found 5 armed warriors in the mist this morning. I will find 1 crippled samurai if I must. The threat hung in the air between them. Tanaka's breathing quickened with fear. I will not speak of her. I swear it. See that you do not. Kenshi turned and walked back toward the village, leaving the survivor to contemplate his choices. That evening, Yuki found Kenshi by the stream behind the cedar grove. He was kneeling at the water's edge, washing his hands. The stream ran clear. There was no blood left to wash away. But he scrubbed at his skin anyway, methodically, obsessively. The villagers are afraid, Yuki said, settling beside him. They have heard what happened. They do not know what to think. They should not be afraid. The danger has passed. They are not afraid of strangers. They are afraid of you. Kenshi's hands were still in the water. For 10 years, they thought they knew you. The gentle blind man who fixed their tools and played with their children. Now they know you are something else. Something they do not understand. Do you fear me? Yuki considered the question. No. I feared for you when you walked out to face them this morning. But I do not fear you. She paused. I have seen men return from violence before. Some come back changed, darkened, unable to find their way back to who they were. Others carry the weight without letting it crush them. I do not yet know which you will be. Kenshi lifted his hands from the water and let them rest on his knees. The cold had numbed them, which was a kind of relief. I felt nothing, he said quietly. When I killed them, no hesitation, no regret, no horror. Just the same emptiness I always felt after combat. The same cold clarity. He paused. I thought 10 years of peace might have changed that, but it was still there waiting. The part of me that kills without feeling. Is that the part that protects Hana? Yes. Then perhaps it is not entirely evil. Perhaps. Or perhaps I am fooling myself again. Telling stories to justify what I am. Yuki was quiet for a long time. The stream murmured over stones. Somewhere in the village, a child laughed. Hana asked about you, she said finally. She heard the sounds of fighting. She wanted to come out, but I held her back. Thank you. She is frightened. Not of you, for you. She does not understand what happened, but she knows it was dangerous. She knows you risked yourself for her. She should not know that. Children are not fools. They see more than we give them credit for. Yuki paused. Will you see her? Kenshi's hands clenched. I do not know if I should. The man who sat with her in the garden, who taught her to listen, who brought her small presents. That man feels very far away right now. He is still there. Beneath the killer, beneath the emptiness. He is still there. How do you know? Because you are sitting here, washing hands that are already clean, worrying about what a child thinks of you. A true demon would not care. He found Hana in Yuki's garden as the last light faded from the sky. She was sitting on the stone bench where they had sat so many times before, her knees pulled to her chest, her face turned toward the darkening mountains. She heard his approach. He could tell by the way her body tensed, then relaxed when she recognized his footsteps. Kenshi-san, Hana. He stopped a few paces away, uncertain how to proceed. The distance between them felt larger than it ever had. You are not hurt? She asked. I am not hurt. Grandmother said you fought the bad men. She said you won. Yes. She said you did it to protect me. He did not deny it. There was no point. I would have done the same for anyone in this village, he said. It was true, as far as it went. You are all under my protection. I should have made that clear long ago. Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and walked toward him, her footsteps careful in the gathering darkness. She stopped directly in front of him and reached up to touch his face. Her fingers found the lines around his eyes, the weathered texture of his skin, the unseeing eyes that had never looked upon her. You cannot see me, she said. You have never seen me, but you fought for me anyway. Yes. Why? Such a simple question, such a complicated answer. Because 8 years ago, I found a child crying in the ashes of her home, and when I picked her up, she stopped crying. She trusted me, a stranger, a blind man with blood on his hands. She trusted me, and no one had trusted me in a very long time. His voice caught. He paused, steadied himself. I could not save the child I killed. Nothing can undo what I did that night. But I could save you. I could watch over you, protect you, make sure you had a chance to grow up safe and loved. It does not balance the scales. Nothing can balance those scales. But it was something. It was the only something I had. Hannah's hand dropped from his face. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. She was small against his chest, warm and alive and impossibly precious. I do not understand everything you said, she whispered. But I know you are sad. I know you carry something heavy. And I know you fought today because of me. Hannah, I am glad you did. I am glad you are here. I am glad you found me in the ashes. She squeezed tighter. Do not go away, please. Whatever you did before, whoever you were, do not go away. Kenshi stood frozen for a moment. Then, slowly, his arms came up and wrapped around her. He could not see her face. I would never see it. But he could feel her heartbeat against his chest, quick and strong and alive. This was why he had fought. This was why he had broken his vow, picked up the sword, and became the demon again. Not for redemption, not for penance, but for the small warmth in his arms, this life that depended on him, this child who saw past the killer to something worth saving. I will not go away, he said. I promise. The village of Yamanaka had changed. Word had spread, as word always does, of what had happened on that misty morning. The story grew in the telling. 5 men became 10. 10 became 20. The blind demon had returned, they said, and woe to any who threatened his home. No more strangers came seeking Kenshi. No more warlords sent messengers with threats. The village existed in a bubble of peace, protected by a reputation that cost nothing to maintain. Kenshi still lived in his hut by the cedar grove, still repaired tools and wove baskets, still walked to the village center each morning to listen to the sounds of ordinary life. But things are different now. The villagers no longer looked past him as they once had. They nodded in respect when he passed. They brought him food without being asked, including him in festivals he had always observed from the edges. He had protected them. That meant something. And Hannah is 13 now. Tall for her age, Yuki said, with her mother's features and her father's stubbornness. She had begun learning to read, to write, to do the things that might one day take her beyond this small village to a larger world. But every evening, she came to sit with Kenshi in the garden. Teach me, she had asked, a year after that terrible morning. Teach me to fight. He had refused at first. The thought of Hannah learning to kill, of her hands becoming stained as his were stained, was unbearable. I do not want to make you into what I am. I do not want to be what you are. I want to be able to protect myself, to protect others, the way you protected me. They had argued. Yuki had mediated. Eventually, a compromise emerged. He would teach her to defend, not attack, to use an opponent's strength against them, to escape, evade, survive, the gentle arts that did not require killing. She learned quickly. Her blindfolded training sessions became a source of wonder for the village children, who gathered to watch her move through forms with her eyes covered, guided only by sound and instinct. You have a gift, Kenshi told her one evening, as they rested after practice, a natural awareness that most people never develop. I had a good teacher. I taught you technique. The awareness was always yours. She was quiet for a moment, catching her breath. Kenshi-san, can I ask you something? Always. The child you killed, the one you told me about, do you still think about him? The question struck deep, as her questions often did. She had grown old enough to understand the weight he carried, young enough to ask about it directly. Every day. Does it still hurt? Yes, but differently than before. How differently? He considered his words carefully. Before, the pain was sharp, like a fresh wound that would not heal. Now it is duller, a scar rather than an open cut. It still aches, especially on quiet nights, but I can live with it. I can carry it without being crushed. Because of me. Partly. Because of you. Because of this village. Because of the life I have built here. The pain does not go away, but it shares space with other things now. Joy, purpose, love. The weight is distributed. Hannah reached out and took his hand. I think he would forgive you, she said quietly. The boy you killed, If he could see you now, see what you have become, I think he would forgive you. You cannot know that, no. But I can believe it. And sometimes belief is enough. That night, alone in his hut, Kenshi knelt before the sword. He had not buried it again after that morning 3 years ago. It rested on a rack now, oiled and maintained, ready if needed. A reminder of what he was capable of, for better and worse. He did not know if he would ever use it again. Did not know if more strangers would come. If more threats would emerge from the world beyond the mountains. The future was as dark to him as everything else. But he knew this. He was no longer running from what he was. The killer and the man existed in the same body. The demon and the protector shared the same hands. He had spent 10 years trying to destroy one to preserve the other, and it had nearly cost him everything that mattered. Now he understood. The darkness was part of him. It would always be part of him, but it did not have to define him. He could choose what to protect rather than what to destroy. He could use his terrible skills in service of something larger than himself. He could be the demon when the moment demanded it, and the man when it did not. It was not redemption. The blood on his hands would never wash clean, but it was something, a way forward, a reason to wake each morning and listen to the sounds of a world that was, despite everything, still beautiful. Outside, the night insects sang their endless chorus. Somewhere in the village, a dog barked and fell silent. The stream behind the cedar grove murmured over stones, as it had for centuries, as it would for centuries more. And Kenshi, the blind demon, the killer and the protector, the man who had found his reason to live in a child he could never see, sat in the darkness and listened. For the first time in many years, the silence did not feel like emptiness. It felt like peace. If your heart is still open for one more tale, follow the card on your screen. I've chosen another journey that pairs beautifully with this one. Whenever you're ready, I'll be waiting in the next story.